Hey, Canucks fans, Pete and Doug here from the Canucks Speakeasy. And we decided we were going to give out a little bit of bonus content this week because Doug and I were talking off air towards the end of our last episode, which we released yesterday. We were talking a bit about Brandon Sutter's retirement and Cory Schneider's retirement. And Doug, you were kind of suggesting, it's like, hey, why don't we talk a bit about some of our favorite lesser known Canucks goalies throughout history? And thought that was a pretty cool idea. So Doug, do you want to start us off? We're each going to do 3 goalies, and we have maybe some fun stories or fun different reasons for them. And Doug, why don't you start us off with your first pick?
Yeah, and I just want to preface when we say lesser known goalies, lesser known Canuck goalies, they are probably still well-known goalies throughout the NHL league, but lesser known as Canucks. And my first goalie is the original Latvian Canuck goalie, Arturs Urbe. He didn't play a ton of games for the Canucks. I believe he played just under 50 games. Maybe it was like 40, 41 games or something like that. But I loved Arturs Urbe. I loved his mask, old school, mask a la Dominic Hasek style. He had the white pads, very small goalie. I believe he was 5'8", which is, I believe, how tall I am. And he was just a very athletic goaltender. You know what I mean? He was a great goalie. It was fun to watch him. I know he had all those years with San Jose, but when he came over to Vancouver, I thought he did a really good job in the small sample size we got to see him here.
Yeah, it was a great mask, right? That was like you said, the old Hasek mask. And did you know, this is kind of a fun fact, is the Canucks have had more Latvian goalies play for them than any other team in the league.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3, but still, that's something. Do you know who the other 2 were?
Artur Silovs is obviously one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who the other one is.
Oh, Peter Skudra.
Oh, Peter Skudra. Brian Burke.
I'm gonna go Arturs Urbe. That's a great pick. This is a fan favorite, and if you're looking for property to buy in Arizona, please look up Eddie Lack. Now, I've got a few reasons for liking Eddie Lack, besides the fact that he's fun on social media and fun on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now. He once bought me a tequila shot, and I will never forget that. We were down at Gringo's and didn't realize I was sitting next to Eddie Lack at one of the benches down there in Blood Alley. And he was with some other Swedes, probably hockey players, I don't know. And they ordered some shots. I remarked, like, oh, that's a good idea. And next thing you know, a couple of shots appeared at the table, and courtesy of Eddie Lack. And got to say, he's a very nice guy in person as well. Great character there. And he played some pretty good goal for us. So for me, easy choice for my first pick, Eddie Lack.
Yeah, I always loved Eddie Lack. He had a huge personality, the type of guy that seemed to always make everybody smile anytime you were around him. I think my fiance's got like a pretty big crush on Eddie. That was one of her all-time favorites as well. And great choice, Pete.
All right, Doug, take it away. Second pick.
So my second pick is the backup goalie during the 93-94 playoff run for the Canucks, and that's Kay Whitmore. Obviously, Captain Kirk McLean stole the show for the Canucks on that playoff run, but Kay Whitmore was a very serviceable backup goaltender. I thought he did an incredible job in the backup role to Kirk McLean. But the other thing about Kay Whitmore that I know has come up in the past couple of years is he actually worked for the league in 2010, 2011 during the Canucks Stanley Cup run all the way eventually against the Boston Bruins. And he was pulled from working that series because of his ties to the Canucks, which seems ridiculous in retrospect. Yeah, he was like one of the guys because, there was the story about Tim Thomas using illegal pads. Apparently they had like the little trapper thing that would like help block the 5-hole. And Kay Whitmore was actually taken off working that series, which I thought was kind of crazy when one of the main people who worked for the league at the time, son, played for the Boston Bruins, and nothing happened there. But Kay Whitmore, man, I always loved him.
Collusion. Another fun thing with Kay Whitmore, the Canucks liked him enough to acquire John Van Beesbrook, which Florida ended up taking in the expansion draft to protect Kay Whitmore. So the Canucks, I think they traded a second rounder to the Rangers because the Rangers were going to lose him. They had Mike Richter and John Van Beesbrook, and they traded him to the Canucks. And so the Canucks basically left Whitmore and Van Beesbrook exposed. And by doing that, the Canucks lost John Van Beesbrook to Florida and were able to keep Kay Whitmore.
I love Beezer.
I don't know why I remember that, but maybe at the time because I was so excited about all these new teams coming in. And so I remember far too much. Brian Bradley went to Tampa Bay and he had a great career over there as well. All right. My second one, we're talking about goalies and lesser known goalies. Got to take some backup Bob. Now, I know most people remember Bob as they should as a Winnipeg Jet, but you remember, like, I don't know, were you a big hockey card guy, Doug? I'm a hockey card guy, and like the value of goalies who look good in cards. Backup Bob looked good in his cards. He had a really nice low butterfly, and he used kind of the old school mask, not like the total fiberglass like Patrick Waugh one, but he made it look so good, and he lived up to his name. That was what he did. Again, he only played like something like 39 games here. I remember looking at his stats earlier, I think in a couple of playoff games, but he was your quintessential backup. And I just think it would be completely remiss to not mention backup Bob in some of our lesser known goalies. Turns out, again, tying back to the Bruins again, turns out he's been a goalie coach in Boston for like 11 years as well. Now, I didn't know that, but backup Bob, got to give him a nod because that's a great name as well.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Essensa, what can you say? He was the quintessential backup goalie. I know he was the starter for Winnipeg early in the 90s and late 80s. I was a huge goalie guy. Like that was always my favorite position growing up. Trading cards, hockey cards, like you said, I would always want the goalie cards. I think it was Pro Set did that series where it was just the goalie masks, which were really cool.
Yeah,
yeah. Patrick Waugh one, Tim Shovelday, who played for Detroit, John Casey, Minnesota North Stars, Bob Essensa for the Winnipeg Jets. But yeah, man, Bob Essensa, he had a very short stint in Vancouver, like most of these goalies did, but he was really, really great. And I mean, what can you say? It's Bob Essensa.
I think that Pro set you're talking about is worth less than the paper it's printed on right now. Those things were so mass produced. There's absolutely no value. I had someone who's like, I got a bunch of old hockey cards. You want them? And I looked and it was just like a box of those old Pro Set and Score cards. I'm like, these have absolutely no value, man. And but look, it's a Jeremy Roenick rookie card. I'm like, I got like 17 of those, man, and they're not worth a quarter. All right, Doug, give us number 3.
So number 3 is a weird one for me because, I mean, my reasoning for picking this goalie is not really anything to do with the Canucks, but he was a backup goalie for the Canucks. And that's Jason LaBarbera. And the reason I'm picking Jason LaBarbera is because, funny story, a good friend of mine, who all of us in the friend group call Asshole Mike, went to school with this guy. And he always tells a story how this guy like beat him up in his front yard. Again, just teenagers being teenagers or whatever. But it's just funny because if you know Asshole Mike, he probably deserved to be put in a headlock and be given a couple of punches to the head. So that's always been one of the reasons why I've liked Jason LaBarbera, because I could always shit talk my buddy Asshole Mike. Shout out to you, Asshole Mike.
Because he punched your buddy in the head. That is really a good reason and definitely worthy of a good third spot. I love it. My third spot, I like for one game in particular. I've got one lasting memory of this guy, and that's good old Andrew Raycroft. And I am doing this pick basically just to spite the Leafs, because that was the goalie that they got in the Tuukka Rask deal. And they remember the Leafs had Pogge and Rask, and they traded them both away, and neither one of them ever did anything with the Leafs. But anyways, Raycroft went to Toronto. The Canucks ended up, I think they signed him as a free agent. I can't quite remember. I think that I'm going to say they signed him as a free agent, but there was a game in Toronto, and I very vividly remember this. The Canucks were down in Toronto 3-0 at the end of the first period. Luongo was the starter. Toronto's going crazy. As I guess Canucks fans are like, oh God, prime time. Here we go. And the Canucks ended up coming back to win this game 5-3. They put in Raycroft to start the second period. Raycroft comes in, doesn't allow anything. And I still remember, I'm pretty sure it was Burrows who put one into the empty net to make it 5-3. And Raycroft coming out of his crease and going to the corner, and he's just like going like this. There's some Canucks fans in the crowd. He's going like this, like going to the Canucks fans. And I just thought, like, man, that's every Canucks fan right now for Raycroft going back into Toronto and doing that and getting the W. So for me, just pure spite. For you had the pure spite. For Asshole Mike, for me, it's the spite for the Leafs fans. So I got to go with Andrew Raycroft there. Doug, pretty fun there. Well, sorry, you have something to say about Raycroft?
I was just going to say former Calder Trophy winner, I believe. Didn't he win the Calder Trophy in Boston? Pretty sure he
Uh,
did.
we'll go with it. We're not fact checking anything here. People can tell us in the comments how wrong we are with our stuff, but we're just spitting memories here. Memories fade, just kind of like when you get punched in the head by Jason LaBarbera. All
But
right,
yeah,
folks.
no, I
Thanks
think
for
that's a fun little segment. So
yeah.
yeah, if you want to close it up here, Pete.
Yeah, let's do it. I was just gonna say, thanks. We're still learning the YouTube stuff here, and thanks for tuning in, joining us. A little bit of bonus fun content. We're gonna do some stuff like this throughout the year, just kind of weird things. If you got any ideas, please say so in the comments or shoot us a message on Twitter, X, whatever it is, at Canucks Speak. Until then, catch you later.